Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's interview guest is Michael Watson. He's living in the UK, and I'm very pleased I have the honor to introduce Michael. We met through social media. We have several topics in common, like, for example, Bob Proctor. And I would like you to introduce yourself to the community now, to the audience, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Caroline, and thank you for having me on your podcast today. My name is Michael Watson. I'm very interested in personal development, which is really how I linked up with Caroline. Although we can't remember exactly where we linked up, but it's obviously through either Bob Proctor or some other personal development services. I also have my own podcast. I am an expert in giving evidence in a very niche topic of giving evidence at court, family court, or giving evidence generally, and managing, helping people to manage cross-examination in court. And it's just an area that a lot of people don't know much about, because very few people know when they're going to have to, can plan when they're going to have to go to court, unless you're a professional who has to go to court regularly because you're working in that field. But most people don't know when they're going to court. Something happens and it's a chance thing, and then they have to go to court, or they're splitting up with their ex, and then they have to go to court, and then they're thrust into an environment, a court environment, which is very alien, which they don't know how to handle generally, because it's not meant to be easy to handle. It's meant to be a stressful environment. But actually, the ante, or the outcome can be very detrimental, or it can be very beneficial to you. But that's why it's important to know how to manage giving evidence and being cross-examined. So yes, I said I've written a book on being able to helping people to give evidence at court and managing cross-examination. And as I said, I've got a podcast called the Incredible Witness Podcast, which at the moment is only, when I say it's only, it's audio. It's not video yet. It will be in time, video as well, but it's still fairly new. So that's my introduction.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. I learned so much when you were speaking. Also, when you say your podcast is available on audio, and this is what podcast was meant about, or meant to be in the beginning. I always enjoyed listening to podcasts, and then I learned that you can upload it on YouTube, or you can even see the videos on Spotify. This was new to me when I created my podcast 4 weeks ago, only 4 weeks
Oh
ago.
my God, well done. And
Yeah, and
I need to talk to you after about that, because there's things I need to learn about um, uploading it to YouTube and other things, but we'll talk about that later.
yeah, this is really, really easy, and I found this out 2 days ago or so. I can help you with that, of
Thank you.
course. And, and I wanted to say we are now in episode 76. You are the number 76, and it's amazing because I'm so inspired by the whole project, and also by people like you. You are very inspiring, because I never heard of this. And you said you wrote a book. I will certainly sneak in the link to your book, and I would like to add the link, of course, into the show notes, that people can click on the link and see what your book is about.
Yeah.
I'm very interested. Now, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, my first question is, what inspires you?
I think a number of things inspires me. People like Bob Proctor, people like Grant Cardone, people like Anthony Robbins. These people, Oprah Winfrey, Nelson Mandela, people who have they've endured sometimes very difficult things, but somehow come out massively doing hugely successful work, but not just for themselves. They're about helping, the world, everyone in the world. And so those sort of people inspire me. Quotes inspire me. Um, things, great hardships inspire me. Things that, I mean, when I'm not going to talk too much about this, but my first time when I went to court was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. And strangely, that inspired me, although I didn't realize it for a long time. Um, but that is what sort of inspired me to write my book, although I wrote it many years after my first experience. But hardships, and there's a lot of hardship in the world. There's a lot of things that are going on in the world which are not um, probably positive, but hopefully positive things will come through from those hardships, because that's what happens, or that's what can happen. Um, Inspiration can come from the difficult times, the times where things are very difficult and painful. But that's where you learn most things, most about yourself sometimes, when things are painful.
Yes,
So
I
that's,
agree. I never, but I at the same time, never saw it that way, because when something is happening, then I rather be frustrated than
yeah,
than inspired.
yeah,
But it's true, because when we turn this around, or we see the advantage in it, the equivalent benefit, on the other
yeah.
side, like Napoleon said, or Nightingale, I don't remember who it was. I think Napoleon Hill,
I think
but
Napoleon Hill. Yeah. Mm.
yeah, he's a safe bank. In German we say safe bank too, when you can say, or you can say it was Shakespeare.
Yeah.
It's 90% of the time it's right,
Mm.
it's so amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We have a lot of names here, and also what inspires you. You talked about hardships. I
Mm.
love the word.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the word, but yeah. And how do you inspire other people?
Well, partly that I was doing that a lot through my podcast, but I'm not sure how successful that was, because what I was doing was, well, actually two things. One is I also write a newsletter called the Incredible Witness newsletter, same name as my podcast, but I
Mhm.
write a, a weekly um, a weekly article on LinkedIn. So my articles are a combination of self-development, personal development, um, and giving evidence, or cross-examination. So it was a link. It was a combination of those things. But I'm not sure how well people are on LinkedIn are being able to. Well, they can access it, but I'm getting the feeling that people either want giving evidence or cross-examination, that's separated, that's separate from personal development. I'm not sure how much there is the people I'm linked with on personal development, or the people who are subscribing to my newsletter, are personal development people. I think there are people who are interested in either social work, safeguarding, or going to court, giving evidence, cross-examination, those types of things, if that makes sense, Caroline.
Yes, absolutely. You talk about professionals like lawyer or so, or mm, judges, or I don't know the
Yeah,
correct names, but you are in a very close niche. I love that very much, because people are always searching for their specialties, or how they can specialize. Of course, I'm very inspired by that, but I also see the picture of to work on yourself in order to manage, let's say, manage your time at the law court,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
To
yeah.
manage yourself, like self-discipline or serenity. This is really great.
Yeah, no, I
Mm,
agree with you, Caroline. I do. I think the what I've learned from personal development has really helped me, because you do need to have that discipline. And I'm not the most disciplined person in the world. I've always been someone who's been able to get things done because at the end of the day, I've got a deadline. So, I push myself when the deadline comes, but I'm not the most disciplined. But I am learning the importance of discipline, of having routines, of writing down my goals, of learning from other people, those types of things. There are so many things you learn in personal development. Reading books, reading more books. I'm reading more than I generally used to read. But when you're doing a podcast, you need to learn. There's things you need to learn, and I think a lot of the work you're doing when you are a social worker or when you're giving evidence, you have to really. I think one of the things that's really important is you have to be in control of your emotions. You have to be able to
Mhm.
manage your emotions, and you have to have. And this is something definitely from personal development. You have to have a good attitude, and that's a real crucial thing when you're giving evidence and working with others. It's vital that you've got a great attitude, and you manage your self-talk and how you think about things, and it's all your inner. You manage to control your inner feelings and inner thoughts and inner actions and activities. I hope that makes sense. But that is crucial when you're giving evidence. You have to do that. Otherwise, the barrister or the person who is cross-examining you will they will get under your skin. They will wind you up. They will irritate you, and they will end up causing you to say things and do things in ways which you wouldn't want to normally, but which benefit them and do not benefit you.
Yes, that's so true. Mastering your emotions, yes. And also, like staying neutral or so in some of the way, some sort of way.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is important. It, we all have biases. We all have
Mm.
things. We all have prejudices. Whether we want to accept that or not, we can't grow up without some prejudices. We can't grow up because there's some things we've learned to value. There's some things we've learned not to value. So there's things that we are strong on and we value and we think are great, and there are things that we don't think are great and we don't like. So no one grows up without biases, but it's important to have some kind of self-analysis, some kind of
Mhm.
understanding of who you are. You have to know who you are. You have to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And if you don't know them, you have to find them out. You have to work on that, because otherwise you will. The thing about court is it's very exposing. Your all your strengths, all your weaknesses, all those bits, your foibles, all the things will be exposed when you go to court. So you need to think that through very carefully, plan it through very carefully, reflect carefully, understand where your strengths and weaknesses are, understand where you might be a little bit more biased in some ways, and you need to be a little bit more open, a little bit more considerate, a little bit more um, balanced. So those are things that you really need to think about when you are giving evidence. So it's very crucial. Your attitude, your ability to be balanced, your ability to be fair, and make balanced, sound judgments.
Mhm. Yeah, judgments, yes. I see like a yeah, there's this, positive mental attitude from Napoleon Hill, and
Yeah.
one of the points is a keen sense of justice. Maybe this is also helpful for your
Yeah.
profession.
Yeah, and one of the books I think was a number of books that helped, but one of the books was an old book, but it's a brilliant book called what's it called? Make Friends. What's it called? How to Make Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
Excellent book.
Mhm.
That was by Carnegie. What? Not it's
They
Dale
mhm.
Carnegie. Dale Carnegie. But it is an excellent book. Excuse me. Because giving evidence is all about influencing people. It's all about persuading people. And there are so many ways, and ways in which we don't even think about. Smiling, for example. People who smile are much, number one, they influence people more. People want to be around them. Number two, it's good for them, their health. that's just an example of something whereby little things that we can do, remembering people's names, remembering someone's birthday, all significant things to help influence people. But actually, when you're in the witness box, there are other, more important things that help to influence the judges or influence, the court. But it's all about
Yes.
influence and persuasion.
Wow, I love that you brought this up. There's also a difference between influencing and manipulating, of course.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, influence and persuading is all generally generally it's positive. Manipulating always comes across as not so positive, not so helpful, not so something that people want to do. People not as something that is seen as a positive thing. So when you influence people, you hopefully you influence them to do something that's positive. When you persuade people, you hopefully give them good reasons why they should follow your lead, or follow your advice, or follow something that you're suggesting. When you're manipulating people, you're not telling them exactly you're not always clear on what you're wanting them to do. You're simply you've impacted them in some way, but it's not open. It's not clear. It's not straightforward.
Yes. And you are hiding something,
Yeah.
maybe your intention or so. Yes. So my next question is, what are your gifts and talents?
I think my gifts and talents. As I said, I've written a book. In fact, I've written two books. One's a small book. Um, Here it is. A small book. I should have brought my other book up. It's a small book. My first book,
Mhm,
Family Court: How to Recognize
mhm.
this, How to Represent Yourself in Family Court. But my gifts are in writing. I love writing, and I love fiction writing. Although I haven't yet written a fiction book, but that's one of the things on my list that I need to do, that I want to do. I love people. I think I've got skills in listening to people. I've got skills in understanding people, in empathizing with people. Um, I think I'm gaining skills in being much more focused on what I want to do. And I think that's been really important. Not because I want to be selfish, but there's a level in which I think it's debatable. There's a level in which you need to be selfish, and there's a level in which you're being selfish so that you can actually help other people in the end, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Um,
Of
so
course.
so you need to be able to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people, and that's what I'm really learning and wanting to do far more of, because I want to be able to influence people, and therefore, and I want to influence them positively. And I've got my ideas about what I want to do with this service that I'm wanting to do, to develop and get off the ground, and get started, and become highly successful at. So yeah, it's understanding what I need to do. And what I'm always what I'm learning is that you need to do far more to be successful. You need to do far more than most people think they have to do.
Mhm. Yes,
And
I
that's
agree.
yeah and
Yeah.
that
It's,
yeah
it's yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, now my last question is about your offers and services for
right
the podcast.
yeah I
Mhm,
mean well I mean I will give you basically I'm open to offering support. I'm open to offering, because it's when you go to court, it's not just the practical things you need, like like being able to give evidence, like being able to manage cross-examination. A lot of people need the emotional um, skills and support, because
mhm,
it is a highly stressful situation, a highly stressful environment. So all I'm going to say really is, if people know other people who need to go to court. Now, I'll be very clear. You can go to court because you're in a family court situation. You split up with your ex, and you've got children, and um, you need the court to make a judgment about how much time the child lives with you, or lives with the other partner, or sees the other partner, or sees you, whatever. You can go to court because you're involved in the criminal proceedings, and you can go to court for other things, or for other matters. But the point is, when you need to, if you need to give evidence, the skills that you need to give evidence are the same throughout. But
Mhm.
most people don't know them and haven't learned to learn those skills in any way. Yet those skills are so important, because it can mean a difference between you losing your child, or seeing your child very rarely, or it could be the difference between you losing your liberty if you're going to prison, or you're being prosecuted for something. So that's how
Mhm.
vital it is. But most people, as I said, don't know how to to learn to use that skill. So um, my service is really about coaching. I can coach people through that, through the court process, and there are a number of ways in which that can be done. But it's a new service. It's not a service that a lot of people know about. There are services where people go when they might do litigants in person, so they might do Mackenzie Friends. But but there are very few people who can actually give evidence or teach people to give evidence, because very few people do it regularly. I do it
Yeah.
regularly, and I've done it regularly, and that's why I know how to do it. That's why I've written a book about it. That's why I've got a podcast about it, and that's why I can help people so well with it. And because I've gone through the worst possible scenario, when a child died when I was a very young and inexperienced social worker. So
Mhm.
I've had that
Mhm.
experience. So that's what qualifies me to write the books. That's what qualifies me to be able to help people. And I know what it's like when you actually are going to court, and having to deal with barristers and the court process and the court environment, which is alien to most people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. And as I say, I can be found on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
Incredible Witness Podcast. I'm available on Instagram, Michael240656 is my handle, or the name of it there on Instagram, where I give a lot of videos, do a lot of videos. I will be starting a YouTube channel, also with
Mhm.
Caroline's help.
Yeah.
um, and that's it, really.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing and for the offer as well for people to reach out. Please reach out to Michael Watson with the code INSPIRED. Then we can know you are coming through this podcast. Join his podcast as well. And I will link the books, your books in the show notes. Yes, and this is very amazing. So thank you for this inspiring interview.
Thank
And
you for having me. Thank you for
next.
having me, Carol. I should just say that the podcast comes out on Wednesdays, every Wednesday. Sorry, I forgot to add.
Oh, it's okay. It's important to know. I will sneak in on LinkedIn. This is amazing. You also talked about your newsletter with the same title.
Yes,
Wow, incredible. What was it? Incredible.
Incredible Witness, the
With,
Incredible Witness newsletter.
mhm. We put it in the show notes, and then people can reach out and click on it and join. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you
See
very
you
much
in.
for having me, Caroline. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much.